Hi everyone and welcome to the 5 big 11/11 commerce trends you need to know now. So 11/11 is at the bleeding edge of commerce, and I think we all know that. And this is when it comes to personalization, when it comes to the leadership with data, when it comes to social and how live commerce is used as part of that. Headless commerce, AR, and I think I can go on and on and on. So first of all, my name's Ryan. I'm the Chief Technology and Transformation Officer here at Group M, and I've got the privilege of building commerce capabilities and also experiencing commerce and the impact that commerce can deliver in my career here in Australia, but also in Canada and in Japan. I'll be your moderator for today. And we've also got an amazing panel with us here today. So first we've got Toni. Toni's been with Group M for over 2 years. He leads our e-commerce practice across APAC, and prior to joining Group M, Toni also worked across the e-commerce sector in a number of roles, including Lazada and Redmart, who are both Alibaba companies. And of course, great to have your expertise here with us today, Toni. And the next panelist is Karleitia. So Karleitia joined the agency within Mediacom. She's part of the building consultancy side of the business as director of e-commerce. And prior to joining the dark side, the agency side, Karleitia used to lead the client side across as head of e-commerce across a multitude of different roles, including iconic international brands, which includes Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein. 2020 Singles Day shopping bonanza. That's what we're here to talk about, and an extremely important event, as we all know. And it generates a record-breaking number of sales, 103 billion in terms of total sales for last year, 26% year-on-year increase versus 2019, and of course we're close approaching the 2021 shopping festival, which we're all very excited about. And when you look at the customer standpoint, the customer base for this festival is increasing not just in China, but also across the globe. So last year, 800 million customers participated in Singles Day, and more than 250,000 brands. But I think what's also interesting is 31,000 of those brands were overseas brands, and these are marketers that are really coming on board with the shopping festival and really benefiting from it, as we can see based on those numbers. What I thought quite interesting being based here in Sydney, Australia, was that Australia was ranked number 4 in the list of countries, and even Japan landed in the top 5 countries for total sales when it came to 2020 shopping festival. So let's jump straight into the trends. We all know how important this is. So first trend is we want to talk about data and the importance of data when it comes to creating really customized, individualized experiences. And we know that shoppers are experiencing and approaching Singles Day with quite the indulgent mindset, right? A lot of us have a little bit more savings left behind from the lockdowns that a lot of us have experienced across the different areas. And again, I'm generalizing there because yes, there's a lot of people that have also had a hard time, but in general, household savings have increased in a multitude of different countries. And the importance of data leading into this is going to be key, because there are going to be so many different brands that are at offer. And we also know, based on an Accenture research, that 91% of customers say that they're more likely to purchase if they're given something that is relevant to them, relevant to what their passions are, relevant to what their behavior is, relevant to brands that connect with them. And even Boston Consultancy has done research finding that 25% revenue uplift for brands that really embrace personalization. So I want to hear all about data and the role that this will play when it comes to what our clients need to take into account. Maybe let's start with you, Karleitia. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sure. Look, I think Data's always been incredibly important, I think, to any business, and in particular e-commerce. And data doesn't lie. So for me, it's super key for any brand. It can tell you so many different insights that about the consumer and about their journey, but it can also tell you areas within the business that you need to be focusing on to really ensure that omni-channel purchase journey is as smooth and seamless as possible. A really great example of this from a case here in Australia is one of our leading global convenience food brands with locations nationally in Australia. They really wanted to look at investing in future-proofing their omni-channel strategy through data. So the team focused on category entry points, campaign trigger based on the audience and the business insights, purchase funnel triggers such as abandoned cart and registration, and then finally looking at the lifestyle triggers from specific data models amplified through paid and owned media. And the results just out of that were incredible. So they had an uplift in sales and transactions, which really suggested that the omni-channel effect of SEM and search was working. As well as various moments had been identified through advanced segmentation. And, this was a really great opportunity for the business to use this data to really dial up those opportunities, as well as identifying audiences where there's churn likelihood as well. So they really adapted the model and the type of data that they were going to use to support that. So really at the end of the day, the data opened up more future test and learn opportunities for this particular business while lifting sales at the same time. So super important, really key.
Yeah, really good example, Karleitia. And Toni, I'd love to hear your thoughts also in terms of any use case that you've seen that aligns with that.
Yeah, no, I think a good example would be Nike, who's, as everyone knows, Nike is very strong online through the brand.com. But how they use the data ultimately is to guide them on where they would create the Nike experience stores based on the sales data, where the orders are going. They are analyzing that and looking at where they can get high density of customers who's buying Nike products. They have the purchase history, so they're making investment decisions based on that. Close this kind of from a Southeast Asia point of view, I usually use a Pomelo Fashion Group, which is an online store, but has ventured into opening up physical retail stores as well. I use them as a great example because they have been able to drive incremental sales by investing offline retail stores. They've been able to reduce operational costs and drive customer satisfaction. Let me share a bit more about what they've done. So they have over 500,000 products online, and in the physical store, they will have up to 20,000 products. What they enabled customers to do online is to order products to the physical store so they could come down and try the product, that it fits properly, the quality is good, touch, feel. That is important for us from a sensory point of view. When they come down, as you enable your salespeople, they know in advance what the customer will be buying. So there's an excellent opportunity for upsell, cross-sell opportunities here. So they can then start pairing up accessories, shoes that match the outfit that the customer will be doing. So that one is creating that wow moment for the customer once they come down there, and it drives incremental sales. But also, as you know, fashion industries online is prone to high return rates. This solution has enabled them to save significant operational costs because items are shipped regularly to the store anyway. So adding more items into a shipment is no cost, and returning to the warehouse as well. So they saw operational savings, they saw incremental sales, and they saw customer satisfaction go up. What we see as well, we just recently launched the consumer eye survey results. On an annual basis, we survey real consumers and amongst others, we ask them how they start a purchase journey for a new product. In Australia, 36% of the customers says that I start my researching a product in a physical store and then buy it online. And 45% indicated that, from the surveys, indicated that I start searching online and then buying offline. So in New Zealand, that ratio was 29-43%. So it shows that brands really need to think about holistically about how to use the data, information about the customers, because customers don't see no longer the boundaries between physical and online. For them, it's a seamless experience, and that's what a brand should strive for.
Yeah, great. That's really, really good insight there, Toni. And maybe we'll let's quickly jump on because I've got so many other things to talk to you guys about. But maybe we'll combine the next two trends. So, of course, we wanted to talk about the rise of social commerce and the importance that key opinion leaders or influencers are playing as a part of social commerce, but maybe let's also combine that with something that's talked about as a subset to social commerce, which is live commerce. And maybe let's combine the two of those. So first of all, why should our marketers and why should the brands care about it? Because first of all, when it comes to social commerce, what we know is more than half of people between the ages of 18 to 24 over the past 12 months have made a purchase from social. So it is becoming an extremely important platform to be able to, for brands to be able to convert. And influencers are starting to, or key opinion leaders are starting to play an integral role as part of this. If you look at the customer perspective, 64% of people actually say that they trust influencers more than they actually trust brands. So that's quite interesting. And I think what we're seeing is that the platforms are adapting. So YouTube, of course, has refreshed its creator marketplace. In Jan, TikTok also launched its creator portal. In May, Snapchat launched its creator marketplace. So a lot of brands are also coming to the party over here to be able to really define and benefit from this engagement and from this conversion that we're driving. Live commerce, of course, plays a very big role within social media, and but it depends upon where you are, right? So live commerce, again, in China has really taken off, and it's very much been the defining force. So I think around one of the stats that I was reading was almost 2/3 of Chinese customers have actually purchased something through live commerce. But I think honestly, the Western world and also across Australia and New Zealand, we're slightly lagging behind on that front. So I'd love to get your perspective again on this. Maybe let's start with you, Karleitia.
Sure. So, I mean, look, many of our clients are already within this space, utilising influencers and KOLs along their own strategies and ensuring that they're visible within a number of different social commerce channels. But, you know, there's always ways and areas for optimization and growth, which, you know, I believe will really come from these new channels and new apps that are being available outside of the traditional. I also think utilising influencers within the discovery phase is super important and key to this. You know, moving from this assumption of shoppable social content just being enough, it's really important that we take into consideration that consumers aren't necessarily going to buy something just the first time they see it. So it's super important to have, you know, influencers and KOLs to be a part of that journey. And it's definitely an area of great focus for our teams internally to help support our clients on that. In terms of Australia, though, you know, the biggest trend out of this, I think, is really authenticity. It's really valued a lot higher over a number of followers or the status of the influencer or KOL in comparison to other markets like China, for example. So in Australia, it's super important for the KOL to really resonate with the brand and the brand messages in order for, you know, the consumer to really feel that that they are really going to be influenced by that and make a purchase. In terms of live commerce, look, it's a huge interest for our AU clients as well to really try and move into this space, but I think it's more about a test and learn at this moment to see if it's really an opportunity for their particular brand and, you know, their consumers as well. I think it really comes down to the experience that you give the consumer. We're nowhere near what's happening in the China market again. What they are doing is leaps and bounds above what we're doing, and I really do hope to see in the future that a lot more is done within the live commerce space here in Australia. There's huge opportunity, and we know that the consumer is engaged with it if they're given a really great experience and a seamless, I guess, way to transact with the brand. Yeah.
Toni, would love to also hear your thoughts. That was really good, Karleitia, and I could not agree more. And I think Australia and New Zealand are in a slightly different space there. But I think to your point around authenticity, I think the need is there, and I think the markets will get there. But it's really interesting. I'd love to hear Toni's perspective also, because within China and within the SEA markets, they're on a completely different wavelength here.
Yeah, no, I think potentially first explain a bit about what the difference between social and live commerce is. They are nuances differences. So social commerce is more about leveraging platforms like Facebook and TikTok to go to the market and explain about the product using key influencers. Usually they are well known. Only in Indonesia you could use micro and nano influencers to relay your brand messaging, but in general you need to have a well-known influencer. Live commerce is more than for brands, for example, hosted through your brand.com or through these marketplace platforms where the purchase journey is more optimized and within an ecosystem. Less require these kind of influencers. Usually a strong brand and ambassador can be there. It's risen in popularity across Asia Pacific. China is in its own league, as we mentioned, but in Southeast Asia and in other parts of APAC, we are seeing momentum, especially the social commerce is getting high traction. And you think about it, what has helped to boost this is the 18 months or so lockdowns due to the pandemic. People are hungry for entertainment, or there's a new terminology in the e-commerce called infotainment being stamped down, because customers cannot go to a physical store to learn about, see product demonstration. So that has now moved online. So that's the infotainment. So you need to entertain the customer and give them reliable information about the product benefits and why should they invest. As I mentioned, the live commerce is more driven by strong brand ambassadors, while social commerce is more with the influencers. What we've seen from China, and in some examples in Southeast Asia when we've done campaigns, is social commerce and live commerce is actually a supplemental investment or incremental sales that you can get. It's more focusing on your impulse buy. You didn't know that you wanted to buy the product until you saw the show or the live stream talking about the product in an entertaining way. So in China, we've seen brands continue investing in the traditional e-commerce marketplaces like Tmall or JD.com, while focusing on these new channels to reach out to a younger audience who might not be that interested in going to a marketplace platform. So they are tapping into a segment who is potentially starting to abandon the e-commerce platforms and consuming their shopping behavior through these social platforms like TikTok, for example. You mentioned earlier about Australia and New Zealand potentially lagging behind. Well, yes, it's true. And based on the survey that we just recently completed, we asked the question about, have you bought through social commerce in the last 3 months? In Australia, 14% of the customers says, yes, I have bought something through either Facebook or TikTok or an alternative social platform. In New Zealand, that was 16%. Interesting enough, we asked the same question when it came to live commerce, which is, as I mentioned, it would be hosted through your brand.com or separate app, or it is through these marketplaces. Only 5% in Australia said that they have purchased a product through live commerce, and New Zealand, that was 9%. So there's a clear trust, I think, with the social platforms like Facebook and TikTok, that they trust the platform more to purchase products versus potentially right now from brand.com, for example. But I think live commerce is in full control of the brand. They can do as many campaigns as they want. It is easy to do once you set it up. So I think live commerce is going to be a force to reckon with in the future, even in Australia and New Zealand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I think even looking at some of the trends in China, where live commerce really took off, when you look at year on year, there was 300 to 400% increase. And I think that is something that we absolutely need to watch out for. But thank you for sharing that insight. That's absolutely really interesting things. And maybe let's have a slightly different conversation around AR, right? And augmented reality and the role that plays when it comes to quite an interesting and innovative way of getting people to convert, right? And the role that plays in commerce. So 35% of people say that they would shop online even more if AR was a key part of that product experience. And 22% of people actually say that they were less likely to walk into a brick and mortar store if AR again if the AR experience was provided by these brick and mortar retailers, which I thought was quite interesting, because for me that's also around solving an actual business problem, right? And we talk about reducing overheads for NEB, or also in terms of how do we reduce returns of a product if people can try it in their living room. So AR is quite an interesting space, but I think my question for both of you, and maybe we can start with you this time, Toni, is do we think AR is a fad, or do we think that it's a genuine future opportunity for brands?
I think it's a future opportunity for certain categories, and I would say I've seen great adoption for like beauty brands using AR technology for their promoting their products. Another one is spectacles. I've seen AR being used as for spectacle purchases. So let me talk a bit about the beauty product. And it goes today, it's a very intense, if you go to a retail store, you're dependent on a beauty ambassador in the store to show you different nuances of lipstick or shades of the creams that you have. And AR plays a key role, and Lazada and Alibaba has experimented what they call the magic mirror, that showcases that you can experiment how the lipstick would look on your face. And that's important for the purchase journey, that you don't want to buy because certain shades doesn't fit you, and you want to see how would I look with it. And that's where I see a big adoption of AR right now. Spectacles as well is easy, because ultimately we all want to test and try. When we go to a physical store, we will test and try different spectacle sizes, different styles, to see how it fits my personality. That can be replicated through AR right now online. Emerging, as you mentioned, is a fashion industry. The challenge with the fashion industry is because you need to get your full body measurements in order to show your how the product would fit you. There are scans that I've seen in Singapore when you can go in and get scanned and save that profile on a platform. And in the future, you can test products online to see how it actually would fit me. I think AR is going to be an emerging trend. We're going to see more innovation. Group EMEA's recently partnered up with Snapchat to start developing through what we call an AR lab, new solutions related to this. So I think it's in the nascent stage, but I think it has a great opportunity, specifically in certain categories moving forward.
Thank you, Toni. And Karleitia, maybe we can get some of your thoughts on here.
I mean, I absolutely agree with everything Toni has said. You know, people are using filters on social apps to change the look of their face, or to, you know, put in backgrounds. So people know how to use that type of technology. I think it really comes down to brands being a little bit more innovative and just taking the risk to give it a go. I think maybe cost might be a part of that. They think that the technology is quite expensive to roll out, and will my consumer use it? For me personally, for somebody who buys a lot of beauty products and has worked in the beauty industry before, that it's key. It is so key now. You can't try those products, even if you do receive them in your home. You can't use them and then return them. So it would be super helpful to be able to have that technology, to be able to give it a try and use it before you actually do that purchase. You know, I've noticed a lot of hair care brands are doing that now as well in terms of colour. You can, you know, upload a picture of yourself or use a live, I guess, streaming, and then, you know, you're able to show the different colours of your hair, for example. So it's not, we know that it's not a new technology. I think that brands just need to look past the new and the wow of it and really, you know, look at ultimately what the consumer needs, and they want to be able to try those products definitely before making an investment in them. And yeah, I think it's something that we will see a lot more of. And I think as the technology grows and potentially comes a little bit cheaper for client brands to be able to invest in and go through that test and learn fairly quickly, because a lot of teams on the client side don't necessarily have the in-house resource to roll out something like that, for example. I do know the Iconic had rolled out some time ago augmented reality for their shoes, so consumers were able to use that technology to try on shoes, for example. It's great. Do a lot of people use it? From what I've heard within my circles, not so much. So I think it really depends on, what that product you're looking to sell, and really making sure that, you take that consumer through that journey on how they can use it and have that a part of the purchasing funnel, essentially.
That's great. That's really good points, because to exactly what you said, in terms of on a cost perspective, it is getting cheaper, and it is on a filters perspective also. We were having a conversation with Snapchat, and they were just talking to us around just the seamlessness of how easy it is to create some of these filters in this day and age, which of course help with changing colors of your hair, or adding, of course, trying out an outfit while virtual, but to your point, it's got to connect back with what's the true customer need, and how do you connect that with delivering that as part of your product solution. So that's great. Thank you for sharing your insights here. We've got one last and final trend to talk about. And this one's slightly more technical, so I'm quite intrigued to get both of your thoughts on it. So this is the piece around, and I call it "What's all the fuss about headless commerce?" It sounds like a very strange name, but when we think of headless commerce, ultimately headless commerce is when a brand can create a commerce experience in other platforms outside of their DTC experience, but they utilize some really powerful APIs to be able to connect that commerce experience across a much more multi-platform approach. Adobe, some of the technology companies are really investing here heavily. So Adobe, as Adobe Experience Manager, Sitecore is also investing a lot in the enablement of headless commerce. But my question to you is, what's all the fuss about? So maybe we can start with you, Karleitia.
I don't think there is a lot of fuss. It's interesting. It's not a new term. The fuss is, I guess, is that it's cost effective. Essentially, if you really look into it, it's an incredible tool for companies that have either multiple brands or utilizing multiple channels, and really allow them, I guess, to have those APIs across those different brands and channels without investing individually. It's interesting though. Some of the most popular platforms, for example, like Shopify, they haven't invested in that yet. So that's, I guess, the area where I find is interesting, is that it hasn't, I guess, translated across to a lot of the more popular, I guess, platform brands to utilize. But it's nothing new, but it's a really great tool to be able to, I guess, take those brands into other channels and utilize, I guess, technology across those different channels as well, without having to invest each and every time. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And Toni, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't understand what the fuss is about. I think what has a lot of brands, because of the pandemic, suddenly realized that when the lockdown came, non-essential products could not be sold in a physical retail store. They almost went into that panic mode. I need to invest in a DTC solution or brand.com. And they got scared. Oh, that's going to be a huge investment. The headless commerce solutions offer a low-cost, go-to-market really quickly, templated solutions, and in many cases integrated to multiple locations. So once you set it up in your solution, you can list products across multiple channels and start selling across different platforms in one go. And it all is from one singular inventory, which makes you cost-effective. I think Shopify has started integrating different marketplaces into that solution. There used to be a more DTC focus, be a brand.com. But what it offers is like one-stop shop for everything you need. You don't need to be technically savvy to set up brand.com and start selling. I have done that for a few clients, small and medium-sized businesses. In 2-3 weeks, you're already up and running and you start selling, getting orders. And we saw that spur really early in the pandemic when the lockdowns, non-essential stores could not be open. That was a quick way to quickly enable brands to start selling again through these channels. So I think it's yes, we're going to see more and more people invest in this instead of going through an expensive proprietary brand.com development that is a 6 to 12 months project. Once these platforms, headless commerce is now so mature and sophisticated that why wouldn't you just do a headless commerce solution?
Yeah, brilliant. I think that was great. So there's not a lot of fuss about headless commerce, but again, it being a really effective and efficient tool. So that wraps up our 5 key trends. So first of all, I want to thank our amazing panelists. Thank you, Karleitia, and thank you, Toni, for taking the time. Of course, your expertise is very much appreciated. And look, for all the brands out there, hopefully what you've taken out of this is, yes, we're leading into the key 11/11 shopping festival, which you 100% need a seat at the table, not just if you're a brand that's selling in China, but also outside of China, because this is really creating a lot of ripple effects, even outside China. But that being said, the trends coming out of the Singles Day Festival will continue on into 2022. So the focus around personalization, really utilizing social effectively, connecting that into live commerce. And again, we know that trend will continue to increase, utilizing AR, and also the connection and utilizing our tool set around headless commerce. What that'll let you do is it lets you create that competitive advantage that you're looking for. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for spending the time with us. And I hope you got a lot out of the session.